Welcome to the Know. I'm Master Jenkins.
I'm John Reisinger.
The upcoming Rogue One sends us back to a galaxy far, far away.
You don't know how far.
Well, it's far, far away.
They're not gonna have a crawl sequence, so you don't know.
Right, it could just be anywhere. It could be Detroit.
I'm ruining this whole read already.
But it's also the start of something new for Star Wars fans besides the lack of the crawl. Standalone stories that are not part of the main saga.
Brand new. And according to a new interview, a lot more might hinge on Rogue One than we ever thought possible because Disney is apparently considering killing off saga films altogether based on Rogue One's performance, meaning episodes 7, 8, and 9 would be the last main Star Wars trilogy ever.
So they're not canceling the existing trilogy, just to be clear. We always knew that standalone films would be important to the franchise because it's a new thing and it's building and everything, but we didn't know they'd be that important. This rather surprising development comes from an Entertainment Weekly interview with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy, who's pretty much the boss of the entire Star Wars franchise, so try not to piss her off. In the interview, Kennedy discussed what Rogue One signals for the franchise and how much of Star Wars' future is still up in the air.
Yeah, when asked about what that means for the saga films, and if we'd see any more, or if standalone movies like Rogue One or the in-production Han Solo prequel would replace them, Kennedy wasn't sure. She said, "That's a conversation going on right now too. I have to honestly tell you, could we do nothing but standalone? Sure, but I don't know. We're looking at all of that."
Yeah, this is definitely an unexpected potential development for Disney. For many fans, the heart and soul of Star Wars has always been the main trilogy, or the saga films. From episode 1 through 6, yes, even the 3 prequels, we've basically walked through the story of the Skywalker family with that thread now continuing on in episodes 7 through 9.
But what did they do after that? We know that Disney's long-term goal is to have Star Wars movies spinning on endlessly, till the end of time.
Forever
Star Wars,
and ever.
Forever!
Star Wars Episode 12.
Yep, but we haven't been certain about what form that would actually take. One of the biggest question marks hanging over the franchise has been whether or not they'd start up another trilogy after the events of Episode 9, and if so, how long would they wait after the current series wraps?
Now, given these quotes, it seems like even the unthinkable is possible, and Disney could effectively end the main saga stories after 2019 when Episode 9 releases. But it makes sense, kind of, that Disney is open to anything because constant trilogies present a number of logistical problems.
For one, starting a new trilogy every few years would definitely make them a bit less special and open the series up to franchise fatigue. Part of the hype train for Episode 7 is absolutely powered by how long we've waited to see the continuation of the story we saw in Return of the Jedi 3 decades ago.
And the second problem, from a logistical standpoint at least, would be whether or not you could keep attaching the current trilogy stars to future trilogies. Kinda hard to get actors under contracts for that many movies without giving them some ridiculous paydays over time. See the Marvel movies for more examples of how much strain that puts on development. How much are they paying Robert Downey Jr. now? Not enough, but it's a lot.
Still, Marvel's mostly managed to pull it off, and their cinematic universe would probably be the template that Disney wants to replicate, a number of mini installments that occasionally overlap in bigger, more epic stories. Building up a young Han Solo and young Boba Fett in their own films before putting them against each other, Civil War style, that kind of thing.
Yeah, even though some fans would be disappointed that Disney could move away from trilogies, that would be one potential way to transition the series into a timeline past the main saga, I guess, occasionally bringing back Rey or Finn into their own adventures after the fact so they can continue doing stuff, but tell other stories as well.
Apparently, the future of the saga films rests on the audience reaction and box office success of Rogue One.
No pressure.
Yeah, by all accounts, that success is looking pretty assured at the moment because Rogue One is tracking for a fairly huge opening of $130 to $150 million in its first weekend domestically.
Now, while that number would be well below The Force Awakens' record-breaking $247 million domestic opener, it would still put Rogue One in the powerhouse category alongside some of the year's biggest blockbuster premieres like Finding Dory, Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, and Civil War.
Which is good. This is all good news for Disney's thoughts about moving away from the saga format because as good as The Force Awakens did, Disney probably recognizes that it was a unique moment of anticipation that will probably be unmatched, even by episodes 8 or 9. It's going to be extremely hard to replicate one of the top grossing films ever in theaters.
Now, it will be interesting to see just how much business Rogue One does and whether or not it shows the brain trust at Disney that the standalone format is sustainable enough to replace the saga films. It also seems maybe a little bit lofty to pin those types of hopes on prequels. So when we've seen in the past, the prequels don't necessarily capture the attention of audiences the way main entries do. Harry Potter is a very great and current example. While Fantastic Beasts had a solid opener this weekend, it actually represents the lowest domestic first weekend total for any Harry Potter film. Part of that is because new characters that they're not super familiar with sound familiar Rogue One, and also because it's a prequel, you know what's coming later like far down the line in the world. Again, sound familiar, Rogue One?
Yeah. As for when Disney plans on figuring out the future of Star Wars, Kennedy did actually give a timeline saying, "We are planning to sit down in January, since we will have had The Force Awakens released, now Rogue One, and we finished shooting episode 8. We have enough information where we can step back a little bit and say, what are we doing, what do we feel is exciting, and what are some of the things we want to explore?"
Yeah, we certainly look forward to hearing those answers for ourselves, but what do you guys think of Disney potentially ending the saga films in favor of standalone titles? Let us know in the comments. I'm sure it's going to be a divisive issue because everyone loves the trilogies.
Yeah.
But do you need future trilogies, or is this good enough, and would you rather just see different corners of the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, for future updates on all that Star Wars news, like this video and subscribe to The Know. He's a nice looking wet dude.
He's a good looking wet dude. And his
Dry dude.
and his wet wife is good looking too.
Mara is. She's good looking. I'll get in the middle of that wet sandwich.